bundled up and we're back at it. We are back on the 59 budget rat rod project. We are essentially doing a chassis swap with a 87 Ford Thunderbird turbo coupe, 2.3 liter turbo, and a 5-speed. If you're new to the channel, the 59 Mercedes sitting in the side yard well over 25-30 years. Decided to drag it out, chop it all up, and build a sweet rat rod out of it, all on a budget and not spending more than $5,000. The last couple weeks we've made some good progress. We got the turbo coupe all chopped up. It basically looked like a go-kart. Bare bones, only what we need for sheet metal, and a rough trim to get the body of the 59 sitting on the chassis. We left off the build by getting the body just plopped basically on the chassis so we can get this whole project in the garage and out of the weather. We got the subframe connectors all welded in and fabbed up. Yanked out the gas tank because straps for the gas tank sit right about in this area here. And as you can see, you have to trim quite a bit off of that in order to get this body to sit down exactly where it needs to be. We're gonna have to start off by trimming just about shade under 9 inches off this whole back section here. We got this rear section all bobbed out and got rid of all that back sheet metal that we didn't need. Before I set the body back down, we just got to do a little bit of trimming on the rear wheel wells. Right where the wheel well comes off of the pinch weld, goes from flat to radiusing down. I'm basically going to take this whole outer section here off. I was hoping to get away with being able to leave that whole inner fender well intact, but we're not gonna be able to make that happen. So we got both sides marked up. We're gonna get those cut and then see if we can lay this body down. See what else we have to trim. All right, we got the body sitting a little farther down on the chassis, closer to where it needs to be. I'm not 100% happy where it's sitting right now. There's still some fine tuning. These back panels, we're gonna trim those to fit right. They're spread out enough that they kind of just slide down onto the side of the frame rails on each of the trunk areas. Finally, go to install this body for good. I'm gonna mark that, trim it, and have those sit actually on the frame rail itself so I can get that all burned in. I have a space where the wheel well and the inner fender well meet. That's roughly about 1 inch or so on both sides. The B-pillar is sitting on the pinch weld, which these pinch welds are matching up perfectly, which I'm super happy about because the B-pillar, once it's trimmed, will come down perfectly and meet in here, this area. So that width is working out very, very nicely. But it's still, the whole thing still needs to come down about 1.5 inches or so. The B-pillar area needs to come down about 1.5 inches. The rear part of the door needs to come down 1/4 inch more, so 1.75 inches-ish, which means that the whole back end has to come down a little bit, which is perfect. Once we get that ass end to sit down more, it'll help level the body out a little bit more. The front A-pillar is actually sitting almost where it needs to be. Other than some fine tuning just to get it to mesh up a little better, to get a better mounting solution. I'm gonna trim out this pinch weld here. I'm gonna do a little bit of trimming in this windshield cowl area just to get the front of the body to come down about another inch, 1.5 inches. Also in these corners where the inner fender wells are hitting the chassis, trim that. I want the body to come down as much as possible so we can try to tuck the tire in the rear fender well before we do any sort of suspension work. That way, when we do to lower this thing, it's off to a great start. I want the body to make the car look like it's sitting lower than it actually is, just to keep that ride quality a lot better. We're going to trim up the big pillar area over the wheel well, shove this thing down just a little bit farther, and then get this windshield cowl area to sit better as well. I know it probably doesn't look like it, but we did get the back half of the body to sit down and have a couple contact points in the B pillars. The wheel wells are real nice and tucked up into the structure of the 59 body. These gaps are also a lot tighter, not perfect, but they're a lot tighter. Everything dropped down about another inch or an inch and a half or so. And then the front cowl section, I kind of have just the front fender just to see what it will eventually, what I'll have to trim on this. And we got the windshield cowl and the A-pillar to sit in contact on both sides. It's super close underneath to having a couple contact points for welding. I'm not 100% satisfied with the height of it right now. What I really want to try to do is get this body to sit maybe an inch, another inch, inch and a half lower, which I think would require cutting up in this arch area right up over the wheel well. Now I have to clean up these cuts anyway, so that way it follows the radius a little better. This is just a rough cut when I cut the old wheel wells out. So what I think I want to try to do is trim up in here about another inch or so, try to get this whole body come sit down that much lower. I want to try to close up this gap here and probably cut this on an angle, follow more the shape of this factory rocker. Between cutting that and then trimming up in those wheel well arches, I think I'll be able to get the body to come down about another inch or so. But I'm getting super excited because this is very, very close to being right where it's got to be. We are like this freaking close to being able to make mounts and burn stuff in and make this body permanently attached to the Thunderbird chassis. So just a little bit more trimming, a little bit more, but it's getting there. All right, we got the full weight of the body sitting on the chassis. It's pretty much all squared away for the most part. My top of rocker to top of drip rail is the same side to side, right in that B pillar range. The A pillar is sitting at the same height, sitting in across. I'm happy with that sitting. I was able to really close up the gaps over the wheel wells with the body. That's looking very nice. The only thing we really have to do is marking and trimming these back wheel wells here, so that way they sit on top of the frame rail rather than sliding next to it. What I really want to do before I finalize where this body is sitting is kind of mimic what it's going to look like when it's on air ride. What we can do is take the coil springs out of the rear and then let the body down and see how everything reacts, the fenders, the wheels and tires and all that stuff. These aren't the final wheels and tires I'll be using, but it'll be a good idea and a good start just to see what we're working with. Dude. God damn. The thing is looking good. Super stoked about that. But it's not low enough. I had a feeling with the Fox Thunderbird chassis, hard to find anything that is at any builds that are actually slammed on their faces. I kind of knew this was going to be a challenge, get the car low as possible, because right now we're sitting on bump stops. The way it's sitting now is pretty much where I want it to be ride height, which means we need to go a lot lower when we park this thing. I wanted to use the factory control arms because for budget's sake, but obviously that's not going to work. So right now, the car is sitting on bump stops. That little rubber triangle looking piece on both sides. And there's a bump stop right above the diff. That piece right there. The axle is racked too far forward or too far down. Because there's no adjustability in these stock control arms, the lower you go, the more raked forward that axle becomes. Right now the car is sitting at what I would want the ride height to be. So in order to get this to go down lower, we're going to have to cut out these bump stops and probably notch a radius in the frame. And then since the differential is super close to the floor pan, we'll probably end up having to cut the floor. You can already tell how much of an angle those upper control arms are right now. They're angled up pretty hard right now, so that would have to be dealt with. I think we're going to take this body off one last time, clean up all the weld joints, plop it down for the last time, and burn it all in so that way it's all one car. And we can keep plugging along, getting these front doors mounted, the front clip mounted, the hood, and all that other fun stuff that make it look like a complete car. All right, I'm doing it. I've had this body up and down about what feels like 40 million times. I've measured this thing 6 ways to Friday. I mean, I'm driving myself nuts trying to get this thing perfectly dead nuts. It's a rat rod. The body's all rotted out. The chassis from 1987. It's all cut up. I'm like driving myself crazy trying to get everything down to the perfect measurement. Everything's squared away. I'm done. I'm burning it in. I measured from the B pillar to this seam here where the A pillar kind of comes down into the rocker. I measured this point to the B pillar on both sides. It's within less than a 16th of each other. Wasn't 100% positive where to measure back here since this rear sill is pretty rotted in this corner. So obviously this is twisted. in through here is rotted. So, I mean, the body's like not perfect, obviously. I went off of this shock tower to this rear tray section, and those match exactly side to side. And then I went off this kind of drip edge here down to top of the rear frame rail on both sides. Those both match. The wheel wells on both sides look identical. I mean, you can't get much better than that. So honestly, I'm calling it good. I'm burning this thing in, and we're just gonna start tacking it and just get this build moving, because like I said, I'm driving myself nuts. Perfection is the enemy of progress, and we need some progress done on this thing. We're about to take the chain fall and the straps down for the first time since we started this build. Two cars, officially one car. This is a major step in this build, and it's super cool to see this thing start to take shape. When you start something like this, it's kind of all sounds good on paper type deal until you actually start chopping things apart and putting things together and burning it together. So it's really cool to see this thing take shape. Put a ton of tacks up in the cowl area. The B pillars are tacked in. The rear trunk areas are all tacked in. So this body is not going anywhere. I started to mock up the passenger door just to kind of get an idea of what's involved with that. Started chopping up the A-pillar, and I'm able to at least get the door closely mocked up to where it's got to be. Really what's next in this build is to get the front end of this car starting to take shape as well. Getting the front grille, the hood, the fenders, fabbing up some A-pillars to mount the door hinges to, and just keep plugging along on this. But we're going to save all that work for another video. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.